For the purpose of this video, we are first going to establish what perfect sentences are. And then we're going to apply it to the context of AP Lit class following our introduction. Perfect sentences are excellent ways of practicing literary analysis skills. They have all the different parts that we're looking for, and there's a process that you can follow to understand them. The first thing you're going to do when you do a perfect sentence is you're going to get a statement. Often the statement is going to have something to do with a theme, but sometimes the statement could have something to do with a tool or a technique. Let's read the statement that we are going to use now. This statement is applicable to pretty much any piece of literature because you're probably going to be able to find something related to this statement in any book. So, here we go. One isn't necessarily born with courage, but one is born with potential. Without courage, we cannot practice any other virtue with consistency. We can't be kind, true, merciful, generous, or honest. So you get your statement, and the very first step that you have to do for perfect sentences is to really understand the statement. You should read it over. And if there's a word that you don't know, you should probably look it up. And then after you read it over, you should mull it over. Never underestimate the time it takes to think, and don't rush into your assignment. Center yourself first. Then you have to think about this. There are many different ways to enter the quote or the statement to make it connect to your book. Look over this one again. How many different ways do you see to enter into the assignment? When I take a look at it, the first thing I'm probably going to see is courage. I can talk about who had courage in the story and prove that somebody had courage. So courage is definitely a topic I can go into. But I'd call that the low-hanging fruit. That's the obvious answer. An obvious answer is not a bad way to practice writing, and it is not a bad way to get the assignment done. However, you can impress your reader more, and you can go deeper into analysis and meaning if you don't take the low-hanging fruit, but reach a little bit higher up on the tree. So, if I'm looking at this quote and I'm going a little higher on the tree, I'm going to target potential. Who has potential? We all have potential. So then that makes me question, well, who has courage in the story? And who doesn't have it, but had the potential to have it? Remember that when you're doing literary analysis, the presence of something is one thing, but it's equally important to ask about the absence of something. So we could talk about courage and who has it, but when we raise potential, we start to ask, who was not courageous and what moments did they have? Okay, so now we have two different ways that we can approach this, but I see a third. In the bottom part of the quote, there's a cause and effect relationship argued, that without courage we cannot have any other virtue. And it even goes on to being specific about the virtues: kind, true, merciful, generous, or honest. So I'd say there's a third way for me to enter this quote. I can talk about courage, I can talk about potential, or I can examine the cause and effect relationship of courage and virtue. All right, so now I have an idea of what to do. Now I have to come up with moments from my story that support the idea. And when we talk about moments, for the most part, you need to have textual evidence. Remember that if you are going to prove that you really know this book, you have to quote from the book. So you could have a quote, you could take a snippet of dialogue, there's all sorts of different things. But once you notice the picture of the quiver of arrows, that means you should try to have more than one idea how to support, or what quote or what piece of text to develop the idea. If you have more than one, you get to have choice, and choice always makes you feel more in control of what you're working. If you have more than one moment from your story that supports the idea, then you can also choose which one you understand or could argue the best. So I would come up with at least 2 ideas, maybe 3. When you do that, then you will have a piece of the text and you have to connect it to the statement. that brings up this key idea. You need to think about how the text, references, and snippet connects this statement. What is the logic? Logic is a huge part of writing. You have to be able to explain yourself. So the reason for the quote selection has to be clear. Now, let's review what you need to do. First, you're going to get a statement. You're going to make sure you understand the statement. You're going to think about ways to approach that statement. Then you are going to find a quote that answers your approach to the statement, and you're going to make sure you write a small piece of literary analysis about it. When you do that, there is a checklist of criteria. You better have a quote. You better lead into that quote. You should blend. Make sure you develop it. And you better make sure that it connects together to your book and the statement logically, because logic is central to writing. Those are the main steps to the perfect sentence. Good luck. For right now, though, let's take a look at how this would apply to Scarlet Letter. So I would like you to get your book out and open to Chapter 2, The Marketplace, and look at paragraph 6. Read paragraph 6, 7, 8, but just kind of reacquaint yourself with that part of the text. You're going to want to pause this video while you do that. Go ahead and pause. Okay, we're back. So here is what we have. I have my statement about courage, about potential, about virtue being a cause and effect relationship with courage. And so here we go. Right after Hester leaves the prison with her scarlet letter, the women gossip maliciously about her, except for one. Ah, but, interposed more softly a young wife, the pang of it will always be in her heart. The word interpose indicates that this young wife needed to insert and assert herself into this group. All right, now let's keep in mind, I needed to have a quote. Do I have that? I needed to blend or lead into the quote. Did I do that? Did I blend? Did I develop? And is it logical? Look at this and tell me, is this write-up a perfect sentence? You should see that no, this is not an example of perfect sentences. It does indeed lead into the quote. It blends. It also develops, but there is no logic connecting this to the statement about courage, potential, and virtue. So let's look at it now. If I add the sentences that are in teal on the bottom, this woman is kind to Hester, empathetic really, but that kindness is only a result of her courage to speak. If she had remained quiet, she could not have influenced the group to potentially mellow their attitude. Now I have all the parts. I've led into my quote. I've blended it with a colon blend. I have my quote. Notice that I have ellipses because I only take the part that's essential and I leave some part out. I develop the meaning of my quote, making sure I use some literary analysis language like indicates, which is one of the kind of signal words that I'm talking about why an author does something or how he does it. But most of all, I have the logic. I explain that kindness and courage have a cause and effect relationship. These are examples of what I call the perfect sentences. Often you can do this in 2 sentences. You should not go beyond 4 sentences, but this is going to help you practice your literary analysis skills. Good luck now.